I'm Hershey Felder. I'm at Town Hall in the lobby, but on Thursday the 17th of July, I'll be on stage on the other side playing the role of Leonard Bernstein in a play called Maestro.
Now, what brings you to Bernstein? What is it about the man, his soul, that makes you want to do this piece?
It was interesting. This piece was one because theater directors said, "Oh, you have to play Bernstein." I said, "Why?" Because I have the nose. I mean, Mike Nichols even said to me, he says, "You've got, the musicianship, but you've also got that Jewish thing going, I said, whatever that means." So, but then you start looking at the character. The struggle with Bernstein is very interesting. For me, the very interesting idea that here was a man who wanted to be remembered as a composer and is largely remembered as a conductor and as a television personality and as a teacher. And yes, to those in the know, he's remembered as a composer, but if he's remembered at all on the grand scale, it's a composer of West Side Story. And I'm talking about everybody. And I think that was his real goal, to infiltrate the human psyche the way Beethoven's Fifth Symphony has. Anybody on the street, da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da, or Chopin, dum-bum-ba-dum, ba-da-da-da-da-da-dum. To create a theme that actually exists as part of the human psyche, not as a piece of musical theater, not as a piece of, but that exists as part of our, like, language. And I think that's what he wanted, and I think towards the end of his life, he was arguably not so happy with the fact that what most people remember is West Side Story. And I think he wanted to be remembered for other things, and as he says at the end of this play, so much work, so many ideas. So,
I remember him most from the young people concerts because of what he taught. Do you talk about that in the show?
Absolutely. In fact, the whole thing is structured as less a young people's concert than more like an omnibus, one of those things that he did on television, and except that he has a lot of personal life stories here as well. But it's really looking into what made this man. As he says, it's about where music comes from, whether you're performing it or whether you're playing it or what it is. And I'm too young to have, I saw them on TV, so I couldn't have ever attended, but it must have been something to be in New York at the time and be schooled in, bussed in to Lincoln Center or Carnegie Hall at the time to be able to see one of these things live with the paper airplanes.
Well, he also did them at the Hollywood Bowl, and what I remember most about the concerts was that he would do, here's the instruments in the orchestra, but he would never use his own pieces, very, very rarely.
That was an interesting thing, and that's what I imitated, so to speak, in this play. In fact, if you look at Bernstein, unless he's conducting a work or teaching somebody how to conduct one of his own works, he's not talking about his own works. He's always teaching us about the works of the master. And I thought this was very stimulating as an idea, because he wasn't self-promoting that way in terms of, let me show you how brilliant. I think he suffered a great deal of insecurity about his own composing. Great or not, that's time will tell. But he himself, I think, and he was also not accepted among the serious composers, the atonal composers, and he did that whole movie Reflections about that whole idea of, that gang, they don't accept me, So fascinating to look at all this stuff.
Now, do you do his operatic pieces like Trouble in Tahiti?
At one point, the entire What a Movie was in a thing in my voice doing it, and there was an even part where I got to hula a little bit, a la Leonard Bernstein, and somehow it drove away from what the context of the story was, so we decided to eliminate it. It's referred to. A lot of the music that we're dealing with is much like in the young people's concerts, music that he would have taught, music that he had a personal relationship with composers, Beethoven, Grieg, Mahler. Grieg was the first concerto he played. Mahler, Prokofiev, and he insults Prokofiev, terribly, which is very funny. We deal with, Mahler, and we do deal with Candide a little bit, and of course we deal with West Side Story. We deal with Jeremiah Symphony, which I actually like very much. He's 26 years old, but still fascinating. We deal with Schumann. We deal with Brahms. We've got all that going on, but it's there to reveal about him.
Now, if I had to pick a Bernstein piece that I thought was the most popular, I would have said Candide, not West Side Story.
I'll compliment you and say that's because you're an educated musician and you're a singer, so you draw upon a different set of circumstances. But I think his goal really was the general public, the broad public. And he even says, it's great that there are a few music students and who understand this, but what about the rest of you? And I think that pained him. He wanted to be that because, you know, look, whether it's because of United Airlines or not, everybody can sing ya da 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 da. You know, we know that Gershwin.
Right.
Whether we know it's Gershwin or not, we know in our mind that we know the tune, and I think that's what he was after. Or Peter and the Wolf with, you know, da, 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 da. We can see that. And it doesn't matter how it came to us, whether it was media or whatever it is. I think Bernstein really wanted something like that. And he had the accessibility. He was able to promote things. And yet, interesting, you make the point that he didn't. And I agree with you. He didn't promote his own material. So there's an interesting question in that, for me anyway.
And what do you want people to take away from this concert?
That's an interesting question, and I get it asked from time to time. I'm not sure what I want people to take away. I can only be sure of what my intention is in this time, and it's really the question of who he was and what drove him. And at the end of the day, was this a great, grand life, or was it a tragic life? And we also have the personal side. We have his marriage. We have his affairs. We have all those things that appear in this. But ultimately, to me, I think what I feel about it is a human being is made up of a lot of sides. It's not one simple thing, and it's not the one thing that he did. And he was also at a time in New York where media was becoming extremely popular. Technology was advancing such a way that he was the first classical music media star. And if anything, if I have to think about what you're asking specifically, I think that's the idea. We will never have that again. Well, you know, Dudamel for 2 seconds became, it doesn't make his talent any less or any greater, but the media turns so quickly today that the kind of career that Bernstein had for years, being able to do the things he did with the media support that he had, was a very special thing, and I don't think we're going to see that kind of career again in our time. And if I want the audience to take away that, then we've done something.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.